Ancient Odyssey, Treasure Awaits, an introductory role-playing game. Prepare to unleash your imagination. Assume the role of a mighty warrior, powerful wizard, or crafty rogue, and explore the ancient dungeon catacombs and ruins of the known world. Start playing in less than 10 minutes. 2 or more friends can join your adventures, or grab all the glory for yourself. Choose which areas to explore, which monsters to attack, and choose how to dole out the treasure. Then proceed with your own adventures into the dark and dangerous depths, exploring either random catacombs or those you design yourself. Written for beginners, yet perfect for veteran role players in search of a fast-playing and flexible experience. Requires only 1 or 2 dice. And those dice would be 6-sided dice. This game system uses a D6. This special pocket edition is designed for portability. It's actually a very small book, as you can see. I don't have a D&D manual or anything close by to use as a reference, but it's literally digest-sized book. I'm going to go ahead and show you the inside. Right there, what is Ancient Odysseys? Ancient Odysseys is a series of role-playing games that focus on the core of fantasy adventure, dungeon crawling. Ancient Odysseys is designed for beginners, yet perfect for veteran gamers in search of a fast-playing, flexible role-playing experience. This game, Treasure Awaits, is the basic version of Ancient Odysseys that serves as an introduction to fantasy role-playing, and right there it says, even supports solitaire play. The book goes over how it works, explains to you things of how it works. Some things to keep in mind. You only need a couple of 6-sider. These rules are written to be straightforward as possible, but there may be times when the situation makes them questionable. Just use your best judgment. When having a die roll or other number, round down to the minimum of 1. For instance, half of 1 would be 1 and half of 5 would be 2. These books, the PDFs are available at DriveThru RPG for $6.95 a piece, or you can get both the physical copies from this website right here, PIGgames or PIgames.net for $24.95 plus shipping. I happen to be one of those people that would like to sit at a table with a real book and not always have to reference a laptop or a tablet. That's just me. Gives you a brief description of what the game is like. Here's the table of contents. The basics of play. Your adventuring races, humans, elves, dwarves, hoblings. Your vocations, which are basically your classes, rogues, warriors, and wizards. The second book here will add clerics and pathfinders, which are basically your rangers. You only have to worry about 3 key ability scores: fitness, awareness, and reasoning. And then you got your pursuits. These are like your skills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 skills. Talks about weapons, armor, and how to create your adventurer. You can either roll randomly, or of course you can pick and choose. Talks about how to generate ability scores, what pursuits are available per class, weapons tables, armor tables, a short spell list here. Here's an example character sheet. As you can see, it's not that complicated. Of course, being old school, I make my own. And as you can see here in this piece of paper, I've got 3 characters on one sheet. So it makes it real easy to keep track of your characters, whether you're playing one or you're playing an entire group of characters. Playing the game. The basic mechanic behind this game is you roll a d6, you add your appropriate ability rating and your pursuit rating, and you're trying to get over a target number. For your average difficulty for a target number, your value is 7. So if you're going to open up try to unlock a normal lock, your DC would be 7. Of course, that would go up and down based on the difficulty of the lock. For example, anyway. Talks about the turns, various reaction tasks, Crossing thresholds. Thresholds are their name for basically dungeon rooms, going from one chamber to the next. Talks about how to deal with traps. The resolution conflict map is real simple. You don't keep track of every little movement point. You annotate where the enemy is, your PCs that are engaged with the enemy, those that got behind, those that are sneaking around, those are close, and those that are furthest away. Think of it like this here would represent actual melee. Somebody close would probably be like in the same room, or if you're in a bar, a tavern or whatever, on the other side of the tavern. Somebody furthest away would be someone that's maybe standing outside the bar room or upstairs. Or if you're in a dungeon, this might be someone that's in the room next door. Gives you your target numbers for attacking range targets based on their size. You got a close combat table. One thing I like here is that after each little section, they give you a little paragraph that talks about learn by doing. And it gives a breakdown of what it just explained in basic, common, simple English to explain to you what it just tried to convey to you. The actions you can take during a combat: defer, aim, block, evade, escape, entrench, switch positions, sneak, loot, cast spells, open locks, forage for the doors, forage for loot, read an inscription, drink a potion, analyze poison or potion, create an antidote. Gives you the rules for darkness, bulking armor. If you're running around in that heavy armor, it's kind of hard to sneak and all that good stuff. The rules for applying damage. It's basically real simple there. It's got some traps, how to deal with them. Traps have basically 4 numbers and a description. Shroud is the difficulty rating for discovering the trap. Intricacy is the difficult rating for disarming. Efficacy, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. That's the difficulty rating for adventurers to avoid the damage and the effects of the trap should it get sprung, the damage the trap does, and then a basic execution and description of how the trap actually works. They give you a list of spells here, and despite the fact that it's not that big of a book, you do have a fair amount of spells. There's some additional ones in the other book as well. Talks about scrolls, potions, the creatures. Gives you a reaction table based on whether they're timid or unpredictable. A little morale table here. More rules on focusing, size, abilities, weapons, armor, general notes. A little random creature numbers. So the game will scale based on the number of PCs you've brought along. Obviously, the more PCs you bring, the higher chance for more monsters to appear. And then ending the game, when you get your experience points, how you can use those experience points to make yourself better. It gives you a brief description of basically performance. It tells you, an adventure's performance is equal to 1 if the mission was a success. For most games, the mission is simply for the group to get out of the dungeon with at least 500 gold coins or a magic item. If you damage at least 1 huge creature or killed 4 more large ones, add 1 to the performance. Performance is basically their word for experience points. Now it's time to enter the dungeon. I'm going to skip this section because this is basically a pre-programmed adventure. They give you the test, kind of go through, test things out, see how it works. Simple random dungeon map there. And then it talks about further adventures. This is where you can go through and literally make your own. First, they give you some optional rules here. Things to help keep you on track. Maybe changing the order of play. Gives you numbers for the difficulty rating. 6 for trivial, 7 for routine, 8 for complex, 9 for challenging, 10 for improbable difficulty. Create random rooms in the dungeon. There's a basic sample dungeon map. Doors. You always got to deal with doors in a dungeon. The random stock table, whether it's got trap, creature, or treasure. random trap tables, random monsters, random animals. Here's some traps they give you. And of course, you can't have a dungeon without creatures. There's the stats for creatures. And like I said, for a book that's not all that thick, it pretty much covers the basics. The orcs, the goblins, the dragons, the skeletons, the spectras, some wild animals. Generated random treasure, jewelry, arms, armor, magic items, magical effects, random wards, random scrolls, random potions. Some notes here from the designer. And then the back has the basic charts, kind of put all in one place for easy access. The conflict map, or you can just simply make your own. Most people have a battle mat of some type. As you can see, that's exactly what I'm filming on here is a battle map. You can just draw it out, put your miniatures there. If you don't have miniatures, use pocket change. Use pennies, nickels, and dimes if you have to. Blank character sheet, blank creature sheets. This game is really simple. If you're trying to get into role-playing in general or solo RPGing, this is a good place to start if you're having trouble trying to figure a system out to use. This is literally designed almost for the solo role player. Now in this book, Ancient Odysseys, the second book, More Treasure Awaits, talks about leaving the dungeon, or in some cases going to the dungeon. You want to travel there. You just don't want to pop up and say, poof, your character's there at the dungeon. You might want to travel there. Well, this helps you simulate the Wilderlands travel. It adds another race called the Draconians. It adds clerics and pathfinders to the vocations, aka class list. More pursuits. It adds 4 more pursuits or skills. And then, of course, it goes back through how to create an adventurer again. This time adding in the cleric and the pathfinder if you want to roll randomly. And now more ways to play. Talks about dealing with the thresholds again. Dealing more with traps, especially now that you could have animal companions. The pathfinders can have an animal companion or a steed. So it brings in all that information. More actions. It describes more additional actions your character can take. A little parlay table if you're trying to negotiate with an NPC. Taming a monster table, skulking around, trying to find cover during combat. This just randomly determines if there's combat there, rather than just saying, oh, it's an empty room. This kind of determines whether or not there's some type of cover. More actions you can take. More impacts on the action. Fog, mounted combat, rain, snow, being knocked down, high winds. Talks about elixirs that are similar to poisons, except instead of hurting adventurers, they have restorative properties. Cleric spell list. And then more things you can do when you end the game. More ways you can spend that experience. Signature armor, signature steed, tricks of the trade. Unwavering servant, get someone to volunteer to come around. They don't fight with you, but, they hold your torches and whatnot. More optional rules if you decide to use those, like a hit location table or a creature companion table and how much experience they cost or how much experience points you might possibly gain. Some creatures may be tame enough for adventurers to use as animal companions. These may only be gained by spending experience points. Okay, well, you spend that experience points and you can change the disposition of your steed. Miracles, fatigue, spell feedback. Constructing various landscapes. Here's your random terrain tables. Another simple map for a sample landscape. More random stocking tables for traps, vegetation, monsters, plants, animals, humanoids. A little town generator, just give you the basics of a basic town, their attitude towards you, population, what's available to be purchased and bartered, what happens if you fail on a barter, resting, healing, getting hirelings, more information on equipment, the variable cost, availability, and how, not every town will have everything exactly the same as far as gold pieces. Some towns that may not be available, other towns might charge you more, charge you less. More spells for your spellcasters. More creatures. Always got to have a harpy. There's not a lot of artwork in this. It wants to use what little space it's got to fill with information. A little bit on their particular setting, if you want to play in their setting as opposed to your own. And then getting into the landscape. This is another little adventure they put in here to, so you can test things out and give it a test run. So let's go through all that. There's like a sample landscape and dungeon map. And then, of course, at the end, you got your readily accessible charts, so you don't have to thumb through the book. You got your character sheet, creature sheet, companion sheet. And I know that was a quick flip through, but for the solo RPGer who's just starting out and you don't know what system you want to use, complications, you don't know to what degree, this is a great starting point. You can get, like I said, the PDFs are only $6.95 a piece. So if you're a PDF kind of person, basically for $13, you've got yourself a rule set that is easy to use and has enough information in there without overloading yourself with all kinds of minutia that you may not want to be overloaded with. In a previous video, I also went over these cards. Now, if you wanted to expand this out a little bit, you can use these cards, to give you interactions with more deeper interactions, I should say, with NPCs, maybe some information as to what might be in this dungeon room. I recommend you go back and look at my previous video on that. Like I said, these cards, I love these things. These cards are like my go-to for no matter whether I'm playing a game solo or I'm DMing or even as a player. Sometimes, if I can't think of a name, I'll go through and pick a name or whatever and use this to kind of help me flesh out my character. I love these things. But as for Ancient Odysseys, simple rule system. It's great. It don't require a whole lot of brain work. I mean, I could be half asleep and still play this game. It's that easy. Like I said, there's 3 characters right there. They've already been adventuring. There was 5 characters. 2 of them, unfortunately, met their end. But yeah, that's my quick overview of Ancient Odysseys, Treasure Awaits. Go get them at DriveThru RPG for the PDFs, or go to the, there we go, pigames.net website for $24 and change plus shipping. You can get these 2 books. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And I will talk to y'all later. Happy gaming!